As we get close to this AV referendum, you're going to hear lots of reasons to vote no. Don't just believe them. I'm going to give you an answer to the top 10. First past the post works. Sure it works, but it has big problems, so why not try something better? Now I'm not a massive fan of AV, I'd like a proportional system, but I can see 3 key benefits over the current system. You can rank candidates in order of preference, you don't vote tactically, you vote for who you want, and MPs need a majority to win the seat. It's worth considering, isn't it? AV is complex. Well, voting is easy. You put preferences 1, 2, 3. But it is more complex to count preferences, so it's done in rounds. Each round, the person with the lowest votes is eliminated. Sounds like a TV talent show, but you don't need to keep going back to vote. There are some great videos out there explaining it, watch those. AV is not one person, one vote. If I put down 3 preferences and someone else puts down 1 preference, does that mean I get 3 votes and they only get 1 vote? No. You get 1 vote for every round of counting. It is 1 person, 1 vote per round. You only get less votes than this if all your preferences are knocked out before the last round. But here's a tip to avoid that. Rank everyone except the one party you dislike the most. The cost. People have criticised holding a referendum at a time of cuts. It's a fair criticism, but we're having the referendum, and so that's not relevant to the question. It will take more time to count all those preferences, so that part will cost more. But general elections are only every 5 years, so not much in the scheme of things. Blimey, I'll volunteer to help if it's a problem. AV will help extremists. This is a scare tactic, and I could do a whole talk on the nonsense that's been put out about this. Certainly, AV will tempt anyone who sympathises with an extremist party to put a preference for them. Does that bother you? It doesn't bother me. This is democracy. We need to persuade people not to vote for extremists. And most small parties are not extremists, so why rig the system against all of them just because of a few? I hope AV will help small parties gain support, because people can vote for them without feeling it's a wasted vote. But to win any seats, they'll need to appeal to the majority. Only 3 countries in the world use AV. Well, a lot of countries use systems better than AV, so I'm not even going to count this one. AV means more hung parliaments. This one needs some unravelling, as here we are under a hung parliament using first past the post. I'd say a hung parliament seems quite natural, as no party ever gets more than 50% of the vote across the country. It is only by separating votes into seats that the result gets distorted to give a clear winner. And AV has the same problem. First past the post does have a defence against hung parliaments, and that is to turn elections into a 2-horse race. I call it rigging the system, and I'm not sure why anyone is proud of it. Anyway, are hung parliaments a bad thing? Hung parliaments mean weak government. You'll hear people say that first past the post usually gives us strong governments. They can only mean Conservative and Labour governments. 2 parties taking turns to rule. No other party is going to win outright. I hope you've noticed in this coalition that the Prime Minister no longer has absolute power. Unlike Brown, Blair, Thatcher, they were great leaders, but they all messed up because they would not listen. They didn't have to listen. Hung parliaments mean small parties hold the balance of power. It is impossible for any party to hold the balance of power due to the result of an election. Can you believe that? You're thinking back to May 2010, Nick Clegg the Kingmaker deciding whether to go with Conservative or Labour? Well, why didn't Conservative and Labour form a coalition? Nick Clegg only had that power because the 2 big parties handed it to him. There was nothing in the result that anointed him Kingmaker. And that is always the case. Small parties are entitled to stand. They are the least to blame. It is politics, not numbers, and I can prove that to you, but I'm not going to do it now. Hung parliaments mean coalitions formed in backroom deals. You remember the negotiations after the last election, parties jostling, Conservatives and Lib Dems trading off policies, and all behind closed doors. How does this reflect the will of the people? Well, the will of the people was that no party had a majority. So, how do we elect a coalition? You see, we only elect MPs, and it is up to them to decide what government to form. So even if we don't change the voting system, I think we need to look again at this whole process. AV means second, third, fourth preferences count the same as first. This issue troubles me the most. It's true that the winner could end up losing as lower preference votes get given to someone else. Well, the main aim of AV is that you can rank your true preferences, but this will only work if the second and third preferences are worth the same as the first. Imagine going to vote under AV, then imagine it again if the second preference was only worth half a vote. I'll have to leave you to think about that one. How should 100,000 people with many different views elect just one MP? Under the current system, the winner is the candidate with the most votes, but MPs can win with less than 40%. Under AV, the winner is the first candidate to reach 50%. So winning means something slightly different, and that's another aim of AV, that MPs are elected with majority support. This counting of preferences is a way of achieving this. There are other ways, but in this referendum there's only one new option on the table. And that's it! The No campaign of less than 3 weeks to come up with 10 new reasons to vote no. Okay, maybe not, but hopefully you have something to think about.